Throughout this course, I've talked about listening as part of communication. Another part of communication that's rarely mentioned is silence. Silence is typically thought of as the absence of sound, or in a conversation, the absence of words. But communication theorists have begun to think of silence as something added to a conversation, not something taken away. It's often said in the field that I work in that you cannot not communicate. Viewed from this perspective, even silence has meaning. We've all experienced negative silences, for example, when someone is angry or afraid, or when they're sulking in silence. In that case, we certainly get the message that they're upset. Silence in cases like this, and I expect you can think of many other examples, can be called negative silence. And that's not the sort of silence I'm talking about in relation to listening. But I think it is relevant because it might go some way to explaining why we're instinctively uncomfortable with silence. I've said that the context defines the message, and so it is with silence. Depending on the type of silence, we infer meaning from it. Negative silence is the sort that I've just mentioned. It creates barriers that discourage free expression. It can also be intended to punish or manipulate, and many of us will have been on the receiving end of that at some point in our lives. On the other hand, constructive silence moves a conversation or a discussion forward. That's when it becomes relevant as part of the listening landscape. It gives you time to think and to prepare for what to say next. You're more likely to give a measured, reflective response. It carries the conversation forward. If you hold your tongue and wait patiently, the other person will very often feel the need to fill in the silence. Sitting silently, a listener appears confident, respectful, and comfortable, which can put the speaker at their ease, or at least contributes positively to the overall atmosphere. Silence shows interest. We generally respond well when somebody is interested in us, so attentive silence is a signal for the speaker to continue. And finally, it can help to control you in your listening by preventing you from just jumping in. In effect, it becomes an exercise in mindfulness, silently giving your focused attention to the speaker. Try it and see. Practice sitting comfortably while listening and get used to the silence as part of the flow of conversation. I think of it as companionable silence. At first, if you're not used to sitting in silence, that can seem the hardest part. But teaching ourselves that silence is okay and a natural part of any real conversation is vital for any of us intent on improving our listening skills.